Step into the ring, everyone. In the intense world of Cambridge computer science and IT examinations, you absolutely need a strategy that hits hard. You need to float like a concept and sting like evidence. It's all about the jab, the cross, and the hook of your answer combinations. Welcome to this explainer where we are going to unpack exactly what the examiners are looking for when it comes to keeping personal data secure. Now, whether you are tackling syllabus 417, 0478, 2210, 9618, or our main focus for today, Cambridge IT 9626, honestly, the battleground is exactly the same. You are fighting for every single method mark on that paper. I'm your host, your resident exam strategist, and today we are breaking down topic 5.1. We are going deep into removing geotags, anonymizing data, and aggregating information. We're going to take your baseline knowledge and turn your next exam paper into an absolute masterclass of strategic execution. Get ready, because we are completely changing how you approach these questions.
I want to kick things off with a totally crucial question, one that really highlights why students find multi-stage analysis so incredibly hard in these specific exams. To understand this, let's look at a real-world scenario based directly on Cambridge past paper questions. I want to introduce you to two very typical candidates. We'll call them Alex and Sam. Now, when faced with a hefty 8-mark question asking to evaluate the methods a company can use to keep personal data secure, Alex completely overloads. Alex throws an absolute flurry of raw computer science facts onto the page, detailing every single encryption standard known to humanity, but provides absolutely zero analysis. It's just a giant, unreadable wall of text. Sam, on the other hand, Sam rushes in blindly. Sam sees the word data and immediately writes 3 brief bullet points, completely ignoring the command word evaluate. When the results come back, both Alex and Sam are sitting at an agonizing 2 out of 8 marks. The red pen marks on their papers are just brutal. Why? Because they lacked a systematic answering combination. They threw wild punches instead of strategic combinations.
Okay, so let's dive into our structured blueprint to fix this. Today we'll cover 4 core areas. First, we'll look at core data security principles. Second, we'll build out the procedural framework. Third, we'll focus on mastering critical analysis. And finally, we'll cover avoiding examiner pitfalls. Let's get straight to it. Starting off with Section 1, Core Data Security Principles. We need to lay down the absolute theoretical foundations before we can start throwing any analytical punches.
Before we do anything else, before we look at a single past paper, we must define exactly what removing geotags, anonymizing, and aggregating information actually mean in a strict professional context, because examiners are ruthless on definitions. Removing a geotag isn't just loosely deleting location. Absolutely not. It is the specific extraction of EXIF metadata, specifically those GPS coordinates, from media files to prevent the spatial tracking of an individual. Then we have anonymizing data. This involves the systematic removal or obfuscation of personally identifiable information, your PII, so that the individual cannot be re-identified, even when someone tries to cross-reference it with other datasets. Finally, aggregating information. This takes things a massive step further. It's the process of compiling individual data points into summarized, macro-level statistical formats. So you don't look at John Doe's specific Friday night shopping habits. Instead, you look at the broad purchasing trends of 10,000 males aged 25 to 34. In an exam, defining these concepts precisely with the right terminology is your opening jab. It perfectly sets up the rest of your combination.
What we're looking at now brilliantly illustrates the 3 cognitive domains that the examiners actually test. This proves that simple rote learning, just memorizing textbook definitions, is nowhere near enough to secure top marks here. You need to hit all 3 domains. And this is exactly where we introduce the PEAL framework to ensure you hit every single one of these targets. PEAL stands for point, evidence, explanation, and link. Your knowledge and understanding, that represents your point and your evidence. Application is your explanation, where you physically tie those facts to the specific scenario given in the exam. And analysis is the link, where you weigh the overall impact and evaluate the outcome. Before we continue, subscribe to our YouTube channel, Ace the Exams, at acetheexams_IGCS to excel in your Cambridge examinations. Click that subscribe button and hit the bell icon right now. If our friend Alex had used this PEAL framework, that chaotic wall of raw facts would have been transformed into a perfectly structured, high-scoring argument.
Now, take a really close look at the stark contrast here between analytical depth and superficial breadth. This is it. This right here is the ultimate differentiator in Cambridge exams. This perfectly encapsulates the Alex versus Sam problem we talked about earlier. Superficial breadth is exactly what Alex did, wildly listing 50 different facts about data security without anchoring a single one of them to the context of the exam question. Analytical depth, which is what the examiners are desperately looking for, is taking just 2 or 3 core concepts like anonymization and data aggregation and deeply exploring their implications, their inherent limitations, and their specific relevance to the company mentioned in the prompt. The examiners are explicitly scanning your paper for logical, structured reasoning that proves you can transfer your knowledge to completely unfamiliar contexts.
Moving right along to Section 2, the procedural framework. Now we're going to see exactly how to systematically earn those incredibly valuable method marks. So, the absolutely crucial point here is strictly following this exact 5-stage sequence. Why? Because examiners specifically look for the method mark strategy, where points are literally awarded for your thought process, not just the final answer. Imagine we are sitting down and rewriting Sam's washed, panicked answer right now. First, we identify key elements. This means we decode the command word. If the command word is evaluate, we instantly know we need both sides of the argument plus a reasoned conclusion. Second, we apply relevant principles. We might select geotag removal as our primary focus for the first paragraph. Third, we execute the analysis with clear working. This is where we bring in our Peel framework to actually construct the paragraph. Fourth, we verify. We stop and ask, does this actually answer the specific prompt, or have I gone off on a tangent? And fifth, we present it with professional IT terminology. Next time you face a past paper, I want you to give yourself 60 seconds in your head to map out this exact 5-step blueprint before your pen even touches the paper. It is a total game changer.
Always remember that executing this level of analysis requires extracting the right data from the prompt and using the correct professional terminology at every single step. Extracting from texts means you don't just talk about data security in some hypothetical vacuum. If the exam question is specifically about a healthcare provider, your evidence-based conclusions must revolve around patient confidentiality and medical records. If you start talking about e-commerce credit card processing, you get 0 marks for context. Context is your absolute heaviest punch. If you don't land it, you don't score.
All right, let's step into Section 3, Mastering Critical Analysis. This is where we sharpen that evaluative edge to tackle those really tricky extended responses.
When an exam asks you to evaluate data security measures, you must directly compare the similarities and differences, backing each single point up with solid, undeniable evidence. Stop scrolling. Subscribe to our YouTube channel Ace the Exams at acetheexams_IGCSE to excel in your Cambridge examinations. We've helped thousands of students improve by 2 to 3 grade boundaries. Join them right now by subscribing to @acetheexams_IGCSE and turn on all notifications so you never miss our weekly exam strategy sessions. Okay, let's jump into Challenge 1, the data scan. When asked to evaluate measures, you have to weigh similarities against differences, just like a set of scales. I'm putting a 60-second visual timer in your mind right now. Look at the data structure. What is the core trend? The trend you need to perfectly balance is that while both a purely anonymized database and an aggregated dataset protect user identity, that's your similarity, which requires a connective word like similarly or likewise in your essay, they actually differ fundamentally in their utility. Anonymized data still allows a company to track individual user journeys from start to finish without knowing who the user is. Aggregated data, however, completely destroys that individual journey to just provide a macro-level overview. That right there is identifying a major difference supported by real evidence.
The top-scoring candidates, the ones hitting those upper-grade boundaries, consistently demonstrate evaluative thinking by questioning basic assumptions and clearly identifying the specific limitations of any data strategy. Let's move straight into Challenge 2, Find the Flaw. I'm going to read you a flawed sample paragraph from our Russian candidate Sam, and I want you to spot the exact sentence that is hemorrhaging marks. Here is Sam's answer. The company should anonymize all customer data. This will stop hackers from stealing anything. Anonymizing data replaces names with ID numbers. Therefore, the data is totally safe. Okay, did you spot the massive flaw? The sentence, "This will stop hackers from stealing anything," is fundamentally and completely incorrect. And therefore, the data is totally safe is a wild, unjustified assumption. The examiner commentary here would heavily penalize Sam. Listen closely. Anonymizing data does not stop a breach from happening. It only mitigates the damage after a breach occurs,
because the stolen data cannot be easily tied back to real people. Evaluative thinking means recognizing and stating this precise limitation.
To keep your thoughts organized, I highly recommend using this deconstruct, solve, evaluate matrix. It's brilliant for breaking down your logical steps when dealing with anonymizing or aggregating data. This brings us to challenge 3, speed writing. In a real exam, time management is absolutely critical. It's your biggest enemy. But if you have this specific matrix locked in your head, you can generate a flawless Peel paragraph in mere minutes. First, you deconstruct the scenario to find the exact vulnerability. Then, you solve it by, for example, suggesting the systematic removal of geotags from all uploaded user images. And finally, you evaluate it by stating that while this protects physical location privacy, it may actually hinder application features that rely on local recommendations, perfectly justifying the trade-off. This matrix is your time management lifesaver. It keeps your writing lean, highly focused, and incredibly dense with mark-earning points.
Let's pivot to our final, and honestly perhaps the most eye-opening section, avoiding examiner pitfalls. We're going to look at exactly what the principal examiner reports tell us about common student mistakes.
Pay close attention to this. This is a direct, explicit warning from the senior examiners themselves, reinforcing that confusing terminology will immediately cap your grade no matter how much you write. For instance, when a student writes something like, "The company aggregated the photo's location," the examiner instantly knows that student doesn't actually understand the syllabus. Think about it. You cannot aggregate a single photo's location. You remove the geotag. Now, you might aggregate the location data of 1 million different photos to see which city is the most popular tourist destination, but the terminology must match the action precisely. Always define your terms mentally or explicitly in your introduction before you start building your main argument.
Let's look really closely at these top 3 mistakes, paying special attention to how frequently students confuse cause and effect when explaining data security concepts. Confusing cause and effect is absolutely deadly to your score. A student might write something like, "Because the data was aggregated, the network firewall was stronger." That is a massive logical leap, and it's entirely false. Aggregation is purely a data processing method. A firewall is network security hardware. One does not cause the other to improve. Mistake number 2, formatting, goes right back to reading those command words. If the prompt asks for a report format, do not write a standard essay. You will lose easy presentation marks. And mistake number 3 is exactly what we warned Alex about earlier, writing a highly generic textbook answer about data security instead of applying it specifically to the medical clinic or the online retailer or the school that was actually mentioned in the prompt.
To completely bypass these common errors, try deploying a visual story method to encode these specific concepts into your memory permanently. Visualizing prevents you from confusing cause and effect. Imagine a highly classified spy. When the spy takes a photo of a secret enemy base, they physically scrape off a sticky GPS tracker from the back of the camera. That physical action is removing the geotag. Then, they put on a rubber mask and swap their name badge for a random barcode before walking into a crowded room. That's anonymizing data. The person is there, but their identity is hidden. Finally, they get into a massive stadium with 100,000 other masked people, and a drone takes a picture from 3 miles up in the sky, seeing only a giant moving blur of a crowd. That's aggregating information. The individual is totally lost in the macro trend. If you vividly encode these concepts into a story like that, you will literally never confuse their specific functions or their cause and effect relationships during a high-pressure exam. Summarizing absolutely everything we've covered today, these 3 key takeaways form your ultimate playbook for securing maximum marks on topic 5.1. This is the final unbeatable system. If you want to guarantee top marks, you follow these 3 rules without fail. Rule 1. Command word decoding. Base your analysis on exactly what is being asked using those 3 core principles. Rule 2. The Peel framework application. Explicitly show your methodology step by step for those method marks. Rule 3. The time management matrix. Always apply your professional terminology directly to the specific context given in the scenario, evaluating both sides as you go. Students who implement these computer science strategies see an average improvement of 2 grade boundaries, but only if they practice consistently with our weekly videos. Here's your final reminder. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, Ace the Exams, at acetheexams_IGCSE to excel in your Cambridge examinations. Subscribe right now to acetheexams_IGCSE and click that bell. Don't let another exam pass you by.
I am going to leave you with this final provocative thought to really consider as you dive into practicing your past paper questions this week. When you sit down for that final exam, the clock starts ticking, and the examiners throw a completely bizarre, totally unexpected company scenario at you. What are you going to do? Will you panic and data dump like Alex? Will you rush the command words like Sam? Or will you calmly, confidently rely on the structured Peel framework and analytical matrix you've built today? The choice is entirely in your hands. Drop a comment below with your target grade for computer science and the biggest challenge you're facing. Our team responds to every comment. Like and share this video with a study partner. Ace the exams. Your Cambridge success starts here. Keep practicing, stay strategic, and I will see you in the next explainer.